This might work. If anyone's on here, go ahead and write something. Should be right. Well, I guess we'll get started. I kind of had a general gist of the video in mind, but we'll see how this goes. I figured I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a update and also kind of an overview of the trip. I rode just over 17,000 miles, and it didn't seem like a long time to me. Didn't seem like a lot of miles at the time. Looking back on it, it was quite a few miles. Anyway, I'm going to kind of go over what worked and what didn't, and we'll see if we can get anything out of this. If you guys have questions or whatever, go ahead and write them in. I'm not even sure I'm connected, but we'll see. So, first thing I was going to say is I would change how much clothes I brought. Now, everybody was telling me this before I left, and I tried to take their advice as best I could. And let's move this a little bit. And so I did downsize on the wardrobe fairly substantially before I left, but I still had way too much in the way of clothing. There were some things I don't think I even used, and I don't know, as far as let's see here. As far as clothes, I used some long underwear. I had a full set of the Under Armour, like level 2 long underwear, and I used that all the way down probably until I got into the States, through Canada and all that, and it worked really well. It's I got it way on sale at Sportsman's Warehouse, I think, and it's got that waffle weave to it. Anyway, it was pretty cold up there, and once I got down into the States, the everything warmed up, wowzer. But interesting thing about it was I thought I was going to go, I'll wash my clothes and I'll have all this clothes, and then I'll wear them all, and then I'll wash them again, right? Well, it doesn't really work that way. The How it ends up happening is you wear a few things and then you have a clean bag and a dirty bag, and you've got more clothes than you originally had because there's two bags of them now. Even though they're, two smaller bags, it seems like there's more, and it gets harder and harder to put them anywhere. Anyway, the what I would do is I would take just less of everything. Socks and underwear, I think I probably go ahead and take probably 4 or 5 pairs. But other than that, everything else, just take a couple of shirts, a nice shirt to wear when you're not on the bike, and the rest of it, don't worry about. The couple of pairs of pants, one you've got on, one you're packing, and other than that, a couple of riding clothes to wear on the bike. Anyway, the I'm not even sure I'm live. It must be. It says I'm live. We'll see. So, I'm just sitting here doing another video here. This is Monday's video. Anyway, so yeah, less clothes. The other thing I would say is I would take less camera equipment. Now, I know, for the YouTube channel, this is a great thing, but as far as my packing went, I had this little Wei-T camera, the little action camera that I was using, and it worked really well. I had no complaints with it at all. That'll be fodder for another video probably. But the rest of the stuff I took was way overkill. I had, oh golly, I had so much different mounts and different, I think I had a chest harness and all this stuff to go along with that camera. And also I had a little point and shoot camera, little Canon, digital camera that I just decided to bring. I never once used it. What I used on the trip was the camera on the side of my head and my phone. And of course, from there, I have a couple of apps that have little memory sticks that I can attach that will plug into the lightning port on the phone. And so I have a card reader that does that too. And so I can take that memory card out of the Wei-T camera and stick it in that and then view it on the phone. If I want to, I can download it onto the phone, and then from there it just goes into my photos, or I can put it different places and make the video with that. So really all I needed was the phone, the Wei-T camera, the action camera. I had another one that I brought as well, a second action camera. I never did end up actually using that one. It's just an older model of the Wei-T camera. I decided I had that one and I had a little problem with it. I don't remember what it was, but I just decided to get the newer one. I think, that's what it was. The little plastic case, the little housing that you put it in, the waterproof case, it didn't fit right on the old one. And so I stuck the camera in there and the lens rubbed up against the plastic lens on the front, and it put a little scratch in it. And so forevermore, if you look through that camera, there's a little spot right in the middle, and it drove me nuts. So I got a new one, and at the time, the new model was about $30, I believe, on Amazon. I have been completely happy with it. Like I said, I'll put a review of it up here in a little while. But other than that, that's all I needed. I just brought a bunch of camera chips, and I didn't even use all of them. And a bunch of I had a few odds and ends, wires and whatnot, to be able to take the chips out of the camera and read them on the phone, use them in videos, and also take the completed videos off the phone and load them to another little storage device. And I wasn't completely satisfied with that, so I'm going to probably do a review. But we got some costumes over here. Anyway, probably do a review on the memory sticks and digital electronics and all that stuff, what worked and what didn't. But as far as right now, I'm pretty satisfied with the camera, and I still use that equipment just to put it on the phone, and I'm doing pretty much the whole channel just off the phone. So I had a tripod, a little GorillaPod tripod, and I did use that a few times with a little clamp to hold the phone. I didn't ever use it with the action camera. I didn't put the action camera somewhere on a tripod, but I did use the phone on the tripod a few times to film videos and to do, I don't know, I think I might have set a couple of pictures up with it. And then I had a selfie stick, one of those extendable selfie sticks, and I used that maybe once, maybe twice, I don't know. But honestly, not enough to warrant taking it again if I was going to go again. So the selfie stick's going to go. I'll keep the tripod. I was going to bring a full-size, full-on tripod just because that's what I've been filming my videos at home with before I left. Just sitting the tripod there and talking into it. But I decided not to, and I figured out a few other ways to do it. I kind of got a little more low-key, I think, on the trip too. I wasn't so worried about having the greatest production quality, and I guess it suffered as a result, but oh well. Well, other than that, I'm not sure, but there was a few other things. I had a couple of books on board that I wanted to just take. I have this one book that I won't mention his name because I don't know if he wants to be mentioned, but it's about this World War II fighter pilot who flew P-51s down in the Pacific, and I've always really admired him. He's a Christian guy, and he's kind of been a role model to me in a way ever since I was pretty young. Anyway, I took the book with me because I wanted to possibly meet him and have him sign it. And so I brought it along, and I did end up meeting him, and it was a wonderful time. We had a great time together, and that's for a different time. But it was a great experience, and I would bring the book again if I needed to do that. But that's one thing I can ditch. I also had a full-on road atlas, and some of you guys might not think this is a good idea, but I use that thing a lot, and I would take that again. I guess we'll just go down categories. One, I would take, we'll do navigation. I had a bunch of apps on my phone. I had the atlas, and then I also had the GPS that Ron C sent me, and I mounted the GPS up on the dash on the KLR dash, the dash riser, and that worked really well. Now I had that thing set for Alaska and Canada, which was the main places I was worried about not having service and needing a GPS. So I set that for Alaska and Canada, and there is a process you can go through to change it from the map for the lower 48 to the map for Alaska and Canada, but I haven't done it. Ron C, before he sent it to me, he changed it to Alaska and Canada, and it was very nice of him, and I have been scared to touch the thing, but I was going to come down through there and then get on a computer somewhere and change it. Well, turns out everywhere in the lower 48 I have cell reception, and so I didn't really need to use the GPS other than for highways telling me, how far I was from things, and so it doesn't all the way go away. The map doesn't like just go blank. It just gets less detailed. And so this is the Zumo 450, by the way. It's a Garmin. It's one of the older models of Garmin Zumos. Motorcycle specific, waterproof, all that stuff. So the map just goes from every road, every trail, well, not trails, but every, you can just zoom in on a neighborhood and go through it. It goes from that to a highway map, basically. And so you've got all the major highways, you've got all the freeways, and you've got most of the minor highways. And for me, it was more than I ever needed on the highway. And when I was in a town going through, trying to find my way somewhere, I always had cell reception. I mean, what town doesn't have cell reception in the U.S.? So that was never a problem. And I just used Google Maps or Apple Maps on the iPhone. I did have a couple of maps, offline map apps, and I used them a couple of times. I put a video out on this, and I don't remember which one I liked better, but eventually one of them or both of them started to go to a subscription model for just about anything you wanted to do with the app, so it kind of defeated the purpose. And eventually I just deleted most of those. I'm not sure I used them on the trip. Now I may be getting confused because most of them look pretty similar to Apple Maps, so it is what it is. That's about that as far as navigation, as far as I can think. I guess we'll go into sleeping. The housing setup. I have the tent, the sleeping pad and bag. The pillow I used wasn't a pillow at all. It was my seat cushion, my sheepskin seat pad on the motorcycle. I just took it off every night because, well, I didn't want it to get wet. And so I'd take it off and fold it up a couple of times and use that for a pillow, and I slept really well on it, so I guess that was fine. Anyway, the only thing that I could think of as far as what I would do differently in camping, sleeping, look for a tent that'll fit in your boxes easily. And this is something, my tent fit okay, but the poles were just on the edge and to where it was in my top case, and the tent fit okay, but I had the poles in their own little bag, and it was it would get tricky to fit them in there sometimes because all the rest of the stuff, and I had to just put them in just right. So make sure that fits. I have since, within the last month or so, I've taken the top case off of the KLR, and if I go on another trip, I plan on just getting a dry sack, like a 30 liter or 40 liter dry sack. I already have one that my uncle gave me when I was down there, but it's not as big as I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is replace the top case with a dry bag, and that way I can still retain the off-road ability, unless I go all out and get one of those removable top case racks, like I think it's either Rob Rides Carolina or Ranking to the Rescue has a certain rack on the back of his bike that he's got a top case that has these little pucks or something that kind of go down in holes and lock in. It's like a keyhole thing, and then it all locks together, and that thing looks really, really nifty. If I can cough up the money, I'll probably do that, but I'm not sure if I will yet. Anyway, other than that, I'll probably just use there's a druid. I'll probably just use a dry bag and call it good, because also with the dry bag I'll be able to put the poles of my tent in there and not worry about it. Anyway, let's see. That's about all as far as sleeping goes. I might bring a small pillow. 40 Times Around just recently reviewed, like last month he reviewed a pillow called the Pillow, and if I can find one, I might pick one of those up. I haven't been able to find one anywhere, but anyway, that looks really neat. But I slept okay on my seat cushion, so whatever. All right, as far as let's see, cooking, I guess. I have a confession to make. I didn't cook very much. I started out cooking, and I was cooking for, making my own meals for most of the time that I was in Canada. I think I ate like one meal out, maybe. And after that, I got down in the States, and it got really hot. And turns out I don't want to eat my hot soup or my hot rice side or whatever it is in Alabama when it's 95 degrees out anyway. And so I stopped cooking around the time I hit Nebraska, Kansas, Illinois area, and I didn't cook for most of the time after that. I did a fair amount of cooking before that, while I was in the Pacific Northwest, and I would just cook most of my meals. But after that, I was basically living out of cold stuff in my, well, not cold stuff, but stuff that would keep in my my cooler, because I had that whole pannier that was a cooler, and also just the rest of it, like all the dry snacks and whatnot. And then I would just usually go out once, sometimes even twice a day, because I figured out that the budget that I set for food was quite a bit over what I was spending daily, so I had a little bit to work with. So that worked all right. I was fairly happy with how it turned out. I might have even gone out a little more if I knew closer to how the budget was going to turn out, because I ended up being quite a bit under my projected budget, so that was good. So as far as a cooking setup, I had a pot, I had a tea kettle, which I could have ditched, but problem is, if I ditch the tea kettle, then all the stuff that I was storing in the tea kettle needs to have somewhere to go, and it all fits in my little stuff sack just perfect, so I figured I'd just leave the tea kettle in there. I have the Micro Rocket MSR stove, which worked really well. Nothing I would really change there. I had a spork and a big long spoon. I'm sure you guys have seen those aluminum spoons that are about yay long and like gray, some sort of anodized, and this spoon part is kind of flatter. Anyway, I had one of those, and I just took the bowl and bent it up a little bit so I could reach better into like Mountain House and whatnot. I ended up breaking that one, and so I just ditched it, and I didn't end up getting another one. So. I think that's about all I could think of as far as food. I did take more water, and I ended up gathering more water as time went on. Up in the north, and of course Canada, the Pacific Northwest, you can get water anywhere, and it's not a commodity. Of course, when you get down south, it gets harder to find, it gets more expensive, and you just hope you can find it. So eventually I started carrying quite a few bottles of water. I ended up probably having about 2 gallons on the bike most times, and that might be a little overkill. I had it in like quart or a little over a quart plastic bottles, like Life Water or Smart Water bottles, or those kind, the tougher bottles. Anyway, I would just empty them and then refill them once they got somewhere that I could fill them up. But I don't know. I would probably carry a little less water, but not a lot. I did have a water purification system. I had the the Sawyer squeeze. I didn't have the mini one, just the normal size Sawyer squeeze, and I didn't end up using that at all. So if I was going to go out in the backcountry, I'd still take it, but on another like road trip, probably not. Well, that leaves let's see, what does that leave? cooking, sleeping, gas. I really didn't, maybe this goes along with cooking, but I didn't have any problems finding gas. Now down the Alcan, you're gonna have not a problem, but you just have to mind where you're gonna get it next, especially on a motorcycle, especially on a bike that doesn't have a huge amount of range. Now I can go 200 miles easy, but I met a guy with a GS on a 1200 on the Alcan, and he says he's got a 9-gallon tank, and that just blows my mind because I mean, golly, I mean you can go like 400 miles or something. So I don't know. I can go 200 miles if I stretch it without going to reserve, but usually I was going to reserve about 180 miles, something like that. So, and I was hammering the bike pretty hard, and I had a huge load on the back, so I wasn't too concerned with that. I downloaded Gas Buddy before I left, and I believe I used it a couple of times, but not anything that I would do again. The biggest thing with that one has been, since I got back, just checking prices in the area, and since I can plan and go wherever I want really to get gas here, it's worth my time to check out which is the better price, because you know, if I need to go to the next town over, you know, I'll just wait until I'm going there and then fill up then. So that's okay, but on the road, it's really just, I set myself a budget of $4 a gallon, and so as long as it was under $4 a gallon, I was happy, and I don't think it ever got above $4, except in Canada where it's like 5 or 6 or whatever it is. So gas, food, lodging, that's about it. As far as the budget went, I really didn't have any problems. Now I had the ticket and I had a bunch of repairs that I didn't expect, but other than those things, it was really all right. I was always worried about it, but I ended up having like $700 left over in the budget by the time I got back. I did use almost all of my budget of Canadian cash, and I was pretty worried about that. And I would have exceeded my Canadian budget if I had not teamed up or joined up with my mom and sister, who were also coming up, because we had some meals together, we stayed together, and that lowered my budget. And so I would probably have not made it in the Canadian money department if I hadn't done that. So I guess takeaway is take more Canadian cash than you think you're going to need, and I did. I took quite a bit more than I was going to need, but I ended up having to buy a chain and a couple of other things. Not sprockets. What else did I buy? Anyway, I bought a few things in Canada, a couple $100 worth that I didn't expect to spend, and so that kind of knocked the budget for a loop. So I guess plan for emergencies, and I think my biggest problem was I had an emergency fund that was fine. I had $1,000 set aside. I never did touch it, but I didn't have a Canadian emergency fund, so that's a problem. Anyway, that's about all I can think of as far as what I might do different. I had some tire problems. I wore my first set of 804, 805 Shinkos down pretty close to just bald on the rear, at least. The front the front had its own problems. But they rode really well, and when I switched to the 705s, they were really loud. And I didn't expect this because they're a road tire, and they're not, they're more a road tire than the 804 or 805 combination for sure. But they were louder by a good margin than my old ones, and I never did figure that out. They quieted down a little bit as they got older and more used, which is exactly opposite to what I've been told tires do. But I can't explain that. I had a fine time with the 805 or the 705s. Nothing to complain about there. 804, 805 is what I'm going back to, but that's just because I'm going to be doing a lot more off-roading than I am road riding probably, and that's going to help me out. As far as bike setup, I had the 16-tooth front sprocket, and that was it. I didn't have any other performance modifications. The bike was definitely lacking in power. I was straining it a lot. A lot of the time, like in the Colorado, like in the Rockies or whatnot, I would be running like almost redline heat, and I did figure out that was my fault. I could have fixed that anytime I wanted to, because I had an air bubble in my coolant system and I didn't know. So all I had to do was burp the system, and that had been fixed. So that it throws a variable in that you can't account for. If I wasn't running over hot, would the bike have performed better? I don't know, and I kind of think it would have. I have noticed when I'm running too cold or too hot that the performance goes down a little bit, but I'm not sure how much it would have affected it. I was comfortable about 70, but the bike was, it's a KLR and it's 70. I'm going about 4,800 RPMs, something like a little under 5,000, and it rattles. I mean, there's no getting around it. It's a KLR. I might have gone with the KLX jet kit, needle kit, if I had to do over again. But along with that, I would have probably had to, upgrade some sort of air filter and possibly look at getting a different exhaust. So I was not about ready to spend that kind of money, especially the exhaust. I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone that has the KLX kit without a different exhaust. If you guys have a KLX needle kit and a stock exhaust, I want to talk, because I'm thinking about doing that. But other than that, everything was stock on the bike. After the crashes, after the first one, the bike was bent a little bit, but nothing really major. I lost a blinker and the crash bar was bent up. After the second one, oh man, my steering was all out of whack. It was all I could do to keep it just to get it back to where it was straight enough to ride. And I still think that I may have twisted the frame just a little bit on that second crash, because if I look at the back of the bike on the ground, the rear tire's here and the front tire seems like it's just slightly off at a slight little angle. I'm not sure, but it could be, so who knows. Anyway, this I think has gone long enough. I'm over half an hour here, so I'll get out of your guys' hair. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which is going to be coming up. Actually, that's what I'm doing right here. You can't see it, but behind you I have another video uploading. I won't tell you what it is, but I like it. I don't usually watch my own videos, but I did watch this one, and it's pretty nice. Anyway, I will see you guys later, and you guys ride safe.